Well, welcome everybody. Again, my name is Tim Sandy, and I'll be presenting the first half of this session, which is the PowerPoint presentation portion, and then Tom Lusk will be following up with the demo portion of today's presentation. Again, both of us are system engineers for the partner community. So today we're going to be talking about Identity Manager and Workspace ONE. And what I'm going to do is at the beginning of each of the sections, I'm just going to give a real quick couple of intro slides for some of you that may not know much about Identity Manager or Workspace ONE, and then some of the subsequent slides will get into a little bit more technical detail. So let's get started. So again, we're going to start off with Identity Manager. So Identity Manager meets the needs of our customers by providing simplified business mobility with an optimized user experience, which is both secure and adaptive. We simplify business mobility with one touch from any device, and we do this using enterprise single sign-on capabilities. With industry-leading support for web, Windows, and native mobile apps all in one place. And most of them are already pre-integrated enterprise apps. So this, again, makes it very easy for the IT administrators to configure Workspace ONE to work with these apps. They don't have to do all this special configuration to get them to work and to integrate with them. We've already done that for you, and that's one of the great things about Identity Manager and Workspace is what happens behind and under the covers. It also optimizes user experience and security with AirWatch Adaptive Access, which has a native integrated app launcher, uses dynamic VPN per application, AirWatch Smart Authentication, and provides device analytics as well. So we empower the employees with self-service app store type of interface. That provides them the self-service app catalog and an HTML5-based app launcher as well. We also provide the user analytics and custom brandable web portals, which cater to, again, the IT's needs and their desires. And let's not forget, you can also grow VMware's enterprise-grade hybrid cloud infrastructure, and this provides you with direct integration and federation, a conditional policy engine, and universal authentication brokers also provided. And finally, we also have advanced integration with F5's big IP appliances. So if you're looking to do load balance, we can integrate with the F5 load balancers. So when connecting Identity Manager with AirWatch, this allows for a number of enhanced benefits, such as a single application catalog of all the applications and services provided across all your systems and devices, no matter whether that's a SaaS, mobile, or even a Windows application. This also provides a variety of policies for dynamic conditions and give admins the ability to use device restrictions for greater control over the corporate content. And it does this for both corporate-owned as well as personally owned devices. So finally, this can provide both application and device usage analytics for a better understanding of how your end users work. And again, that helps the IT admins as to how to configure their environment and what's important to those end users. The Identity Manager Virtual Appliance for the on-premise offering has a very simple high-level design. It's nothing fancy or complicated, really. In its basic form, it's the virtual appliance in its general setup, and then it has a split DNS configuration. The same name is resolvable to both internally as well as externally from the internet. The application contains all the necessary services which are needed, and they run on TCP port 443 for the secure user interaction connection, and then 8443 for secure administrative functions. So again, not very complicated, pretty straightforward. So let's talk about Identity Manager's components and the infrastructure requirements associated. There are only two software components really for that on-premise offering of Identity Manager. It's the virtual appliance, which just like most of ours are in that OVA format. And then also, if you choose to have thin app packages and integrate that, there is a Windows agent for that. That's all there is to it. Now, there's the normal infrastructure requirements, just like you do with any other application or service. You need Active Directory. You need DNS A and pointer records, and obviously those IPs need to match. You also need to use Network Time Protocol, NTP. You can very simply and easily just, for the virtual appliance, you can set that to sync with the ESX host time if you like. Or if you're using a standardized external NTP network device, you can use that as well. Of course, there's a database. Now you have your choice of both internal and external. The internal the Postgres database is really meant for smaller deployments and proof of concepts. For larger enterprise production environments, of course, VMware's best practice is use the external database. And you can use either Postgres, Oracle 11G revision 2, or SQL 2014 for that external database. And as an option as well, you can use a load balancer for high availability along with that external access. And we talked about how F5 does integrate with it. So Identity Manager offers a secure way for those users to connect to the various different types of apps using single sign-on. And more applications are delivered as a software as a service or SaaS-based service. And it's become pertinent to be able to provide a single point of access which authorizes those users to the respective applications. And it needs to do this through a common interface without the need to re-authenticate each time a new application is launched. There's nothing worse than having to go into an interface and then every time you launch a different application, having to re-authenticate. It also allows for simple applications, non-SAML-based links as well. In the event that employers need to provide a non-authenticating link for end users, like here the example out to Facebook or a site like that. We also have the ability to present Horizon desktops and hosted applications, which is a big advantage over our competitors. And it helps provide that single portal for not only the applications, but also desktop and services as well. So users can launch desktop and applications either through the native installed Horizon client if they desire that full functioning session with 3D graphics or maybe USB drive access and print redirection. Or they also have the ability to, again, use an HTML5-based browser to access it as well. So Identity Manager can also be integrated with our AirWatch implementation to provide seamless single sign-on across the cloud as well as mobile applications without the need for any application changes. It also supports integration with Microsoft Office 365. And it very much simplifies that integration with Active Directory federation of the applications as well as provides that single sign-on across from any device. So and finally, it makes presenting also those thin app applications easy to deliver. So again, it pretty much ties into any type of applications that you can think of, and it has a lot of, again, that integration points already built into it and baked into where it makes it very simple for the IT admins to add applications and to add that single sign-on capability. So that completes the overview of the Identity Manager. And now what we're going to do is we're going to switch over into the Workspace ONE. Identity Manager and Workspace ONE are very kind of much tied together, and as I go through this presentation, you'll kind of better understand why that is. So with the expansion of mobility, it's become increasingly difficult for organizations to bridge the gap between support for their existing enterprise applications and newer cloud and mobile apps, while also simplifying access for their employees. Now, Workspace ONE consumer-grade self-service puts access back in the hands of the users. And it does this with policy-controlled options for managed as well as unmanaged devices. It also offers the most comprehensive coverage of internal and public cloud, mobile, and Windows applications. And it's the industry's first mobile single sign-on for public apps. So our enterprise self-service application catalog can aggregate several different applications and be tailored to your brand, giving the users instant access, one login for a seamless experience across any of the devices again. So the app catalog delivers the capabilities to connect to internal web apps through secure browser and seamless VPN tunnel. SaaS apps with SAML-based SSO and provisioning framework. Native public mobile apps through the brokerage of public app stores. Internally developed mobile apps secured through the AirWatch SDK, as well as modern Windows apps through the Windows Business Store and legacy Windows apps through MSI packaging delivery for real-time delivery with app volumes. With secure sensitive systems or record apps, you can place them behind the HTML5 proxy by hosting them in the data center or in the cloud, such as our Horizon Air solution. And finally, virtualized managed desktops on-premise or in the cloud. Again, those in the cloud is going to be with our Horizon Air solution. So IT used to have to build an entire OS stack, install all the applications, and manage everything. And I can appreciate this because I used to be a systems admin and used to do this. And it's very cumbersome and time-consuming. But now they can just focus on really the apps, which is what's really important in business nowadays. So VMware takes care of all the background complexity, like I said before. And with Workspace ONE, IT can easily and quickly manage workspace apps in real time, all from one platform, while still maintaining the control that they've always had and are used to. So real-time app delivery and automation makes installation and management easier than ever. Remote configuration takes the features of mobile technology, applies them to the Windows world with one seamless platform. Smart groups allow them to identify devices by user or device type, so configurations can happen quickly and easily during that enrollment process. It can also deliver apps both to physical and virtual devices. Because we have virtualization, we can light these apps up and desktops up in the data center and then push out the necessary images across the network. So a lot of you may ask, what is Workspace ONE technically? What is it really? Well, Workspace ONE can consist of Identity Manager, AirWatch, Horizon, and the Workspace ONE app. But it isn't just those individual solutions bundled together. Although you can buy all these individual solutions and install them as a whole, Workspace ONE is not just a bundle of those individual solutions. As you see here in the green, it says it's also those solutions plus a bunch of integration code. And by adding that additional integration code within Workspace ONE, it gives us a lot of additional capabilities that we can't get when we just individually install those each and individual solutions. Okay, I'm not going to read all those to you, obviously, because you can read that. But just know that, Workspace ONE isn't just us taking those individual solutions and giving it to you in one simple packaging. It is actually additional code that makes additional features come to life that's not available in individual solutions. So Workspace ONE has a native app for iOS, Android, and Windows 10. The app can be accessed from any HTML5 compatible browser. PIN and Touch ID on Apple devices provide protected apps access for soft multi-factor authentication. It's great on my iPhone 6. I've got the Touch ID, and when I log in to my phone, that basically authenticates me, and I can go right into VMware's corporate Workspace ONE and launch apps, and I don't have to plug in any usernames, passwords, or anything like that. It's awesome. I love it. Now, for a system-level PIN is needed for Windows 10 machines and an app-level PIN for Android. Again, I personally like the ability to one touch with the Apple devices. Now, the Workspace ONE app can also be deployed in several ways. The first is manually install from the store, or you can secondly do it through enrolling manually through the AirWatch store. And then third is to install automatically through the app payload installation of AirWatch. The Unified App Catalog integrates all the apps from the Identity Manager catalog. So Workspace ONE app shows the Identity Manager apps, the Launcher tab, and all the published apps in the Catalog tab. Now, when using the browser, though, just be aware that it shows all the Identity Manager-based apps only through it. Workspace ONE is going to provide you a self-service access or true mobile single sign-on for those users. It uses the secure app token system to allow the user to access their apps on the device without the need to log in several times, like I mentioned earlier. This is the case no matter if the apps are on the internal corporate network or whether they're a web-based or SaaS-based application in the cloud. It doesn't matter. Again, just like I said with VMware's production environment, I literally touch ID on my iPhone 6, I go into Workspace, and I launch my apps. It's that simple. So the benefits of the mobile SSO are that there's no longer the need to implement an Identity Manager and AirWatch connector to sync, authenticate, and provide app access. To integrate with the newer versions of Identity Manager and AirWatch, you just need to simply implement the AirWatch Cloud Connector for directory sync and authentication. So again, making it easier to set up and configure for those IT admins. The mobile SSO also removes the need for internal certificate authority integration, which the less certificate authority integration you have to do in an environment, the easier it is and less time consuming it is. Again, Workspace ONE provides that anytime, anywhere access to all those various types of apps. It integrates with over 30 content repositories and content management systems such as SharePoint, Box, Dropbox, OneDrive, and a whole lot more. It provides that enterprise-grade security using AES 256-bit encryption, and it also FIPS 140-2 compliant as well. It also provides IT with dashboards and reporting so that they can better manage the entire environment. To make IT's job even easier to securely manage the environment, it has the ability to provide the account provisioning by provisioning them automatically based on security policies, as well as prevent unauthorized users from gaining email access or access to any other apps they're not supposed to. Authentication can also be accomplished using multiple levels of authentication to include the ones that I mentioned earlier, as well as username and passwords and digital certificates, again, using that 256 encryption. Additional capabilities provide the ability to disable copy and paste functionality, prevent forwarding of emails, configure various attachment restrictions, such as restrict certain attachment types, such as zip files or something to that nature, an exe file. You can also prevent HTML content where they only use plain text in their emails. Require hyperlinks to only open in the secure AirWatch browser rather than the native browser on their device, as well as restrict access by disabling the use of non-compliant devices. So again, all this helps IT keep that corporate data secure, and it makes their job easier while securing the data. So Workspace ONE provides that policy-based conditional access. This generally means that we can restrict access based off of several different factors. Now, this can be what kind of device you're using, to include jailbroken devices, for example, who the user is, where they're connecting from. Are they connecting from the internal network, or are they connecting externally from, say, a coffee shop? You can, with these policies, you can restrict access to certain applications and data based upon where they're at. You can also restrict which apps they have access to based on a combination of all the previous factors that I mentioned as well. So you tailor that restriction and that security to whatever your needs are. As a part of the Identity Manager policy-based access capabilities, again, we can be very granular in how we configure our policies. The policies are configured by network segment, device platform, and app-specific criteria for authentication. You can also provide authentication chaining and with multiple policies to get, again, a very granular security policy to whatever you need. This granularity gives the ability to require more rigorous requirements for users accessing your internal data, especially those external networks such as coffee shop I mentioned earlier. With the AirWatch integration and its device compliance standards, it provides IT with notifications, email blocking, remediation, and escalation for devices that are not compliant. So again, it automates a lot of these processes. These policies are orientated towards device criteria such as encryption, passcode requirements, and again, those jailbroken or rooted devices. So previously, both the Identity Manager and AirWatch provided conditional access, but were not integrated together. So you had to manage those security policies on each solution separately, which again made it more difficult. So with Workspace ONE, it integrates the policies between the two solutions, making management much easier and less room for errors or any security breaches. And more effectively ensures those policies are enforced, again, limiting those issues across the entire network. The new provisioning method of managing PCs and apps provide capabilities such as remote delivery of apps, files. It can do installation of drivers as well as remote scripts. Controls installs based on certain conditions, such as the network that they're on, as well as deploy an enterprise app catalog to them. Although we have these capabilities, though, it's not meant to replace your traditional Windows management platforms such as SCCM or LANDesk. It is intended more so for the BYOD scenarios and non-corporate image PCs. And there's also some limitations around the capabilities with managing the Windows 7 desktops as well. So to insist on making sure Windows devices are secure, have not been compromised, we do check for compliance status, and some of the key features that we're checking for are secure boot statuses, data and execution prevention state, BitLocker encryption statuses, anti-malware protection at boot time, and rootkit detection. So that completes the overview of Identity Manager and Workspace ONE and the end of the PowerPoint presentation. Now I'm going to go ahead and we're going to switch over to the demo with Tom. So Tom, I'm going to let you take over from here.
Perfect. Hey, thanks, Tim. Awesome. All I need is can I get the ball? Perfect. Thanks, Linda. Thank you, Tim. So, wanted to show you the interface to Workspace ONE. Tim went over a lot of fantastic information. There's, and obviously this is the type of solution, this is really, when you're talking to your customers, at the end of the day, everything else we're selling them, we're talking to them about, this is the end goal. It's getting to their applications, right? That's really what it boils down to. Because honestly, we can sell them all the servers and storage and endpoints we want, but if there's no applications, there's really not much of a use for these, right? So really, this is the ultimate goal, right? We want to get these applications to our users, right? Or our customers want to do that. Excuse me. So if you look, so what I've got up right now is actually, this is VMware's actual Workspace ONE page, right? This is my corporate page. This is the page I work from every day. One good thing to keep in mind, remember, Tim mentioned this earlier, but when we look at these applications, one of the options we have is VPNing these. When we VPN in to our environment, the firewalling capabilities and such that we have, right? The individual tunnels for VPN. So if you look, some of this, you might not think it's a huge deal at first, but look, I've got my Salesforce opportunities, I've got my benefits, my personal information. I've got a lot of information here, so those types of capabilities are very, very important. But that's all on the back end. And, the interesting thing, Tim and I were talking about this demonstration is, the demonstration is going to be very simple because ideally we want this to be easy. This is the App Store, right? This is your customer's corporate App Store. I don't want it to be, I don't want somebody to have to, go through a lot of hoops to be able to present applications to the customers. I want to be able to go. I've got the list of applications I use here, like I said, right? So I can come here, and if I click on a link on my Office 365, that's going to pop up. We have our Socialcast application, so that is really it's kind of like it's like VMware's Facebook page, right? So we host it, so we've got groups in here. I think there's actually a group for Top Gun Tech Thursday, so we can share information that way amongst ourselves. We can do a lot of things, and like Content Locker, right? So a lot of your customers, they probably have people out there, using Dropbox, Box, et cetera, right? But I'm sure they would much rather have their their employees sharing their data on a corporate-owned entity, right? That they could encrypt, that they can control, right? They don't want just, I don't think VMware would be happy if we were to have a bunch of, proprietary information sitting out on Dropbox. Right, so we want to make sure that we keep our data safe, right? Because piracy is huge. That's very, very important. So again, that's really what we do on our workspace here at VMware. And like I said, I could launch any of these applications. I just click on those. I can also add applications, right? So if I go, I can browse my applications. It's going to populate this catalog. It's going to show me what's available. Bring this up, but so here we're going to have a catalog where I can go ahead and add these applications to my desktop, right? So here you can see my health benefits, et cetera. If I wanted to add these, I can add them. I'm going to just go back to my launcher page, and if I want, I can actually go ahead and I can delete that application from my page. So that's a great way to work. Another huge advantage of this is, as you can see here, right, these applications come from all sources. I've got web-based. I've got internal applications that are internal to VMware. I've got software as a service with my Office 365. So, again, like Tim said, we can present all of these different applications to our users. So that's a quick overview of our page. What I'm going to do is I wanted to show you a portal, right? And I do believe, I think Tim actually delivered the presentation a while back, but there's actually a demonstration of this test drive environment, right? So you can actually go out, you can request an account for this test environment, and you can actually kind of use this as a tool to help you learn it and obviously to help you present this to customers so they can so they can look at this as well. But just real quick, so like I said, the Wi-Fi here is a little spotty, so I did open up some of these ahead of time just to make it a little bit cleaner. So what I did is actually, so I'm going to log into my environment. And again, so I'm on a Mac. You could see my icons across the back, and bottom. I did this on purpose because I wanted you to see this, right? So I'm actually running this, my normal workspace is a Macintosh notebook. So if we go, I'm going to go ahead, and so I launched this earlier, and actually, I'm going to show you this piece first. So we can see here I've got these desktops that are actually up and running, right? So I've got access to desktops, that are available to me through my workspace. I've actually logged into it here, again, just because the slowness, sometimes it's a little bit easier. But let's just say I've got a Word document that I'm working on, right? So I'm on my Mac, but you know what? I've gone and I've launched this Windows 7 desktop. I've launched it within the Horizon client. It could have been HTML5. I could have used that BLAST protocol to launch it, but I'm doing it through the client just for this example. So I'm going to go ahead and click on that document, and you can see here I created it. And this is for the Top Gun Tech Thursday, 8/11/16, right? So, okay, great. I've made my changes. We're ready to go. You know what I'm going to do? So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to save that document, right? Now let's say later down the road, I'm going to, maybe I've got to do some more work to it. Well, I can actually go out there, and if you look, you can see here within the client itself, we can see we have access to all these different applications. So now if I actually click here on my Word through this Horizon client, you can see it brings up that document I was working on, and you can see here that it has the edits that I made earlier, right? Again, the cool thing, if this was, I can bring this up on my Mac, I could bring it up on a Windows machine. We could bring it up on whatever platform we want. If you've got a phone with enough screen real estate, you could have the client installed on that. You could bring this application up. You could make edits on that. I'm not dexterous enough to edit an entire document on my phone. My typing is horrendous, but I'm sure a lot of you guys are much better than I am. So again, think about that. That's the way we work today, right? We want, your customers, I want to be able to edit this document. I don't want to be tied to have to go into the office, get on my desktop machine and do it. I don't even want to be tied to my Windows machine that I can VPN in on, right? I want to be able to do it whenever I want on whatever platform that I'm using. So again, that's what we can use Workspace for, right? That's just the advantages. And like I did mention earlier, I'm going to minimize that to show you, right? So that's actually through the web. So that's the client, right? I actually have the Horizon client installed on my workstation. Again, if I go here and if I look at my Horizon workspace, let me get this back to the other screen, right? So now we have the same view, no client necessary at all, right? And again, let's go ahead and open up that document here. Oh, you see it opened up another tab with that document opened up there. So we've accessed that document in three different ways, from one platform. But again, using your imagination, right? This could be three separate platforms totally. I could literally, give Tim access to my account. We shouldn't do this. If I gave Tim my password and everything right now to this account, he could actually log in, get the same information, go from there. But again, I hope you see some of the value that we can give you through Horizon, right? Being able to access all of these. One of the questions that came through was, accessing desktops, right? So you can see here we've got an RDS pool, so remote desktop pool. Linux machines, obviously, doesn't matter what version of Windows. We do have machines available in this environment, right? So this is kind of for your benefit if you might use this environment for your own demos or your own edification, right? We actually do have desktops available that do have some graphics capabilities, some higher-end graphics capabilities, because that is a question we get a lot of times with users is, we do some Adobe or we do some AutoCAD. I can't do a remote, I can't do a virtual desktop. Well, yeah, you can. We can do that now with Grid, right? So there's really no reason to do that. And obviously, you can see the applications we have. And in this case, it is a little bit of a limited environment just because it's a test environment. But you see, obviously, the Microsoft Suite. And again, you noticed on my work environment here, right? a lot of software as a service, Office 365, et cetera, and a lot of our internal applications, right? So you can see here our little sandbox and my kids actually have that sandbox. But you can see, right? So you can present all these different applications. Like Tim mentioned, a lot of these enterprise applications, the integration is available, but if you do, again, have a homegrown application, you can actually take that application and you can integrate that into this framework as well.